Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we are actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can still all be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming, and we have a very special guest today, Renae O'Neill. I think I said your name right. I didn't ask.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
All right. So first and foremost, I'm a wife. And I'm also a mum to two beautiful children. I've got a 9-year-old daughter and an almost 6-year-old son. But I'm also a life transformation coach for mums as well. So I help them create their dream life and let go of mum guilt and just be more present and really thrive, not just survive in life, which is really important to me. So yeah, that's a little bit about who I am and what I do.
I have to say, I'm so excited that I'm seeing more people that are out there helping moms.
Yeah.
And
it's
even
such a needed.
Yeah, I would say a year ago, I did a Google search for mom guilt I did a YouTube search for mom guilt, and one video came up, and it was so infuriating to me that I created a webinar and a blog and my podcast, and lots of things came from how angry I got at that video. And I went looking for that specific video of 2 or 3 days ago, and I found 50 mom guilt videos, and it wasn't one. And I was like, this is amazing that there's so much more content now for moms. And I didn't watch all 50 videos, but I'm hoping it's more positive than that one was.
Yeah, it's so needed, isn't it? Work with mums. I think when you become a mum yourself, you realize just how much support a mum needs. And I think too, it's like that old saying goes, it takes a village. And I think over the years, there's been a lot of society pressure on us mums, which has, created this situation where we feel really alone and isolated, and we're not getting the help and support that we need. And so we need more people in this space like you and I helping mums, because it's just so needed.
Yeah. And that concept has been coming up a lot, that it takes a village. And in my last episode, we talked a lot about, how my village has shrunk a lot since COVID happened, but how there are people in that I know out there that they don't have a village that I see. It's like mom, dad, and kids, and sometimes grandparents, but it's not really where we have this support system where here, let me take your kid to gymnastics or to basketball practice, and we can, go to where you can do your thing and have a break, and I'll take the kids, and then vice versa.
Yeah, I think it's one benefit has been because the way of technology is, we've got this opportunity that we can get support in other ways. If you are somebody who, isn't able to have that support nearby you, which can be the case for people who live away from family, they might not have created that support friendship network yet. You can seek it out in virtual ways, which, thankfully here I am sitting across the country from you, or the world, sorry, you know, and we're speaking to each other. So there's other opportunities now, which I really love, for people that are feeling perhaps a little bit isolated, that they can reach out to somebody, you know, in an online community, and, you know, you can connect in other ways that can be helpful. But it can be really hard when you feel like you don't have that support network around you. And, you know, when you're in a season of life where it's really hard and you need that support, it can be hard. And just looking at ways in which you can create some more help. And I think sometimes it's also asking for help. Like, I don't know about you, but mums tend to be people that, you know, just like to take everything on themselves and find it hard to ask for help. But simply asking, and often you'll be surprised at, you know, the response that you get. People are more than willing to help. It's just sometimes they don't want to, like, you know, they don't want to ask, you know, do you need help? Because they sort of want to be respectful of you. So sometimes just reaching out and being like, hey, I'd love some help, whether it be, you know, watching the kids, or can you know, go to the grocery shop for me, like asking for help. And people are always, quite often, so willing to help.
Yeah. And I think it goes back to this concept of, like, I have to do it all myself. Like, we have these, you know, letter S for superwoman, supermom tattooed on our chest. And it gets really heavy when you're trying to do it all by yourself, or when you even feel like there is no one that would help you if you did ask.
Yeah, I think we do have this perception of having to do it all, don't we? And I think sometimes social media has created that illusion, because you'll see the mum on social media who has this amazingly perfect, neat home, who's, you know, running this multi-million-dollar business, who's, you know, doing arts and crafts with the kids, and this illusion of like, oh, she's doing it all and she's doing it all by herself. But the reality is she's probably not doing it all by herself. She's probably got all kinds of help. And I think we get this illusion that we have to do it all and we have to do it all ourselves. And we really don't. You know, we can ask for help, or you can look at ways in which that you can make things easier on yourself, because we don't have to do it all. And again, I think that comes back from, you know, generations ago, where, you know, the mum would quite typically be a stay-at-home mum who would cook and clean and look after the children, and, you know, the dad went off to work, and, you know, it was very much those kind of structured roles. Whereas today is so different. You know, a lot of us mums are working mums, we're running businesses, we're doing these things that we don't have the capacity to physically do it all. And that's okay. Like, letting it be okay that we don't have to do it all, and taking that pressure off ourselves. Because I know with the clients I work with, quite often it's no one else is putting that pressure on them, it's themselves. You know, they feel like they have to do it all, and they feel like they need to, you know, keep this immaculately clean home. And, you know, just letting it be okay that you don't have to do it all. And that's quite okay, because we're all not doing it all.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm curious about your story. Like, how did you come into filling this role in your life?
Oh gosh, that's a long trying to make a short answer here. I think for me, I really struggled when I became a mum. I basically had postnatal anxiety. Postpartum anxiety. And so I'd gone through quite a journey to that stage before becoming a mum. In my very early 20s, I actually was diagnosed with cancer. And obviously we know that I've turned out okay. Everything's fine. But because of that, I had a very small chance of being able to have children and carry children. So when I was pregnant with my daughter, it was a really rough pregnancy. Like I was high risk. So I was seeing doctors every week. I had to have a surgery while I was pregnant. I had a lot of bed rest. You know, it was a very scary, complicated pregnancy, and it involved a lot of touch and go. Like it there were points where we were like, are we going to lose her? You know, like it was hard. And so I think that created such worry and all of this like anxiety that when she was born, I had like anxiety, you know, throughout her newborn stage. You know, we then had another pregnancy, which unfortunately we lost that baby at 16 weeks. I then had my son. His pregnancy was much like my daughter's, where it was very, you know, it was scary. And so throughout all of this, I found that like anxiety really took me away from the present moment and being present with my kids. And it actually hurts my heart to think that, you know, throughout that newborn stage and when my kids were really little, like my mind was constantly in worry, in fear, in, you know, all of this future focused what if sort of scenarios, and was taking me away from the present. And experiencing that for myself, feeling like I'm not really enjoying those moments and I'm not really present in those moments, and, you know, feeling like because of what I'd experienced was taking me away from the real joy of it all. I'm just so passionate about helping mums through their motherhood journey so that they can actually be their best self, because we all know that for a mum, being her best self has such a flow-on ripple effect with her children as well. And, you know, I know that through my experiences with anxiety as a newer mum and as a younger mum with little ones, you know, I've seen, you know, some of my anxiety traits, you know, show in my daughter. And so I'm just super passionate about mums being at their absolute best self, not only for themselves, but for their family as well. So it's one of those things where like, it's such a journey to get to where you've been. And we've all got a story. We've all got things that we've experienced. And I think in motherhood, when you become a mum, it really like cracks you open to everything, because then all of a sudden you've got a bigger why behind you, because all of a sudden you're not just doing these things for yourself. You've got kids, you've got a family, like you want to be your best because of them. And so I find that motherhood's just such a journey, and it does help you, you know, really magnify the areas in which you want to work on, and, you know, getting yourself to that point where you feel like you're at your best. And I mean, there's no perfect, let's be honest, that, you know, there's always going to be work to done no matter where you are in your journey, but being at your best and wanting that for yourself and your children is just so important, and something I'm really passionate about.
Yeah. That's so beautifully said. Just all of that. And anxiety is not something that I ever really struggled with. I had postpartum depression for a while without even realizing it. And when I acknowledged it, it smacked me in the face. But I am currently reading a book about how your baby can feel everything you're feeling and experiences what you're experiencing while in utero. Reading the intro to this book was a little bit triggering, because it was like, oh, I didn't know all this when I was pregnant. I would have done these things, so many things different. It's like, it's okay. He's healthy. He's amazing. Everything's fine. You know, it's like, but you don't know what you don't know, right?
That's right. And I think take comfort in that, because it can be hard when you do experience something and you think, oh my gosh, what have I done? Like, these things have affected my kids. But just take comfort in, you know, now you do what you can in the moment, and you're doing the best that you possibly can at all times. And from here you can move on. And quite often our kids are quite resilient, and we look back and we go like, you know, they're fine.
Right. And one thing that I really, that gave me a lot of comfort along the parenting journey is that I genuinely believe that we choose our parents. And if we choose our parents, then our children chose us. And they chose us, and we chose our parents for a reason, to give us the tools that we need to fulfill our purpose in our life. And so sometimes those tools are growing up with anxiety, or growing up with a mom who had anxiety and having some anxiety ourselves, and learning, and you teaching her or her learning on her own how to overcome that anxiety. Right.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. I'm really big on, breaking the generational cycles, because I know and I can see, things through my childhood with my mum. I can see things now, and I'm like, you know what, I need to be the person that breaks this so that it doesn't flow on again. So my daughter doesn't experience, postnatal depression and anxiety with her children one day, and being able to recognize that. But we do always learn through what we go through as well, don't we? Yes, it might seem like these are hard lessons and seasons that we've walked through, but it makes us the person we are today. And through that experience, we now have these tools and knowledge that we can take with us to help our kids. And so sometimes reframing it from looking at a situation that we've been in where we feel like in my situation with the anxiety, like I'm like, oh my gosh, like being in anxiety I was so in my own head that I wasn't in the present moment. I wasn't enjoying that time. And yes, that is the case, but reframing that and being like, well, hang on a minute. Now I'm equipped with these tools that I can now use to help, overcome that. Yes. But then if my daughter or son experiences something similar in their life, I can now help them as well. And so sometimes reframing things can help as well.
So I'm going to recommend 2 books for breaking the cycle. And then I want you to give one of your anxiety decreasing tips for moms.
Yep.
Okay. So the first book is called Parenting from the Inside Out. And it's Dr. Dan Siegel. I mention him almost on every single episode of my podcast. I absolutely love him and his books. The other one is called, hang on, It Didn't Start With You. And I don't know the author off the top of my head, but it is on Audible. So I've been listening to it while cooking and cleaning and stuff.
Yeah.
And so, but I have started both of them. I haven't finished them, but I love what I've started in both of them. I stopped because I'm like doing the exercises and I'm like, these are so good. I want to learn how to teach them, so I'm not just listening to the book. I want to implement them and then pass them on. So what is a technique that you use to decrease your anxiety when that comes up?
Yeah, so there are quite a few different things that I do, but with anxiety, it is usually future focused. So it's your mind is spiraling and it's all about this what if scenario. So I personally have found that what's needed is coming back to the present moment. So ways in which you can come back to the present moment. For me, if I found myself going down the spiral of anxiety and thought, a panic attack could be near if I don't, nip this in the butt, I will quite often grab my phone where I've got meditations on it. You can get them on YouTube, and there's so many ways in which you can get guided meditations now. There's apps, there's all sorts of things. And I will just take 5 minutes. 5 minutes, it's such a small amount of time in your day. Even if the kids are there, just take yourself to another room. I will put on a quick guided meditation. I'll close my eyes. It helps me relax and control my breathing, which helps with the anxiety state that you're in. And it helps bring back to the present moment. And I find it's that first step of awareness of like, hang on a minute, my anxiety is starting to creep in here. Then working out how can I get myself back to the present moment. It also could be EFT, like tapping. There's a technique you can do with tapping. You can also do the technique of, and I might get this a little bit wrong because I'm thinking quick on my feet here, but it's five. So looking at 5 things that you can see, I'm trying to remember what they all are now. So it's stopping and being like, looking at things that you can see. What can you hear? What can you notice? What can you smell? Being able to come back to the right here and right now and quieting down the mind. So there's a few different things that you can do, but it's just being aware of, yes, my anxiety is starting to spiral. How can I bring myself back to the present moment? And being able to sort of help yourself shift out of that will make a difference. But for me, I think meditation is something that's helped. And look, if you're new to meditation, I remember thinking that meditation was total woo-woo. I can't sit there quietly. This is, but if you have a guided meditation, it will just help you control your breathing and just help you come back to yourself, which will help with your anxiety that you're feeling at that time.
I love guided meditations. That's exclusively what I do for meditating. I have a couple that I listen to on YouTube, and I'll vary it up depending on what mood I want to be in today, or what I want to focus on in the morning. And I don't remember why I was learning about breathing, but I was listening to, I think it was a podcast, but I found it on YouTube, where they were talking about breathing and just breathe in for 4 and breathe out for 8. And my son went to the hospital for some side pain that I thought was an appendicitis. Turned out he had pulled a muscle doing some backflips, but they were treating it like an appendicitis because he had all the signs and symptoms. And so he's in the hospital. They've put an IV in his arm, which is his first IV. And so he's starting to kind of hyperventilate. And I said, okay, let's just breathe. Breathe in 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that calmed him down enough where I could think of what next to do to distract him. And so I called my brother, who had an appendicitis, and my brother has a son, and the two of them were talking on the phone with my son, and that really calmed him down. So it's like, these are new things for me. I don't know how exactly to calm him down in the middle of anxiety, but all you can do is try some things and hope they work. And when you find something that works, remember that for next time,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that is the key. It's not about doing something because that's what somebody else used and it worked for them. Trying the different scenarios and seeing what works for you. But I think the breathing one is a universal one, though, because I think it's the same with the meditating. It helps calm and relax your breathing back down so you can regulate it again. Because when we get in that hyperventilating state, quite often we will end up, if we can't calm it down and relax it, we will end up into a panic attack. And it's much harder to come out of that as it is to start controlling it when you notice those signs creeping in. But the breathing techniques are absolutely, there's so many, go on YouTube, there's all sorts of exercises that you can do. And it can be something you can kind of create into a routine for yourself. If you're noticing that anxiety is something that you're dealing with more and more, create a little routine for yourself where you can help yourself. But I will also mention here too that, it's okay to seek help. I do think if somebody's listening and they suffer from anxiety and they're going it alone, it's okay to reach out for help, whether it be a GP, whether it be a therapist, whether it's a coach, somebody that can help you, because sometimes anxiety is something that is trickier to manage on your own. So if you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I do these things, I'm still in such a state, this is something that's taking over my life, I definitely recommend people seek out some help.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms? That was advice, but is there anything else?
I think just knowing you're not alone, I think, again, social media has so much to answer for. Like, I love social media. It can be such a great place, but it can also just give this illusion of things. And I think we can often get trapped in like comparison, where we look to these people thinking like they're doing it all. And then we look at ourselves and like, why can't we do these things? And, we get a lot of like shame around it as well. And I think just knowing that you're not alone, and motherhood's hard, being a mum is hard, and it's okay to go through these seasons of life that feel really hard and challenging, but knowing that you'll come out the other side. But again, it's that reaching out for help, reach out to somebody, you've got yourself, you've got me, there's so many people that are willing to help. And it's okay to reach out for help and say that you're struggling. And if you are struggling in whatever, that looks like for you, there's always going to be somebody there that can offer some support. And, whether that's somebody that you find online, whether that's a friend, whether it's someone you can reach out to, just reaching out and asking for help and knowing you're not alone, I think is such a big thing, because we often, sit there feeling like it's only me who feels this way. But no, quite often we've all been in those shoes.
Yeah, and there's plenty of people out there that are willing to listen. And a lot of times we don't want to ask somebody that we know because we're afraid of their judgment, because we're actually judging ourselves on the situation. But there's I find comfort in talking to strangers on some things and talking to people that I'm familiar with in other things, and a mixture of the both, so
yeah. And that's what I love about what we both do. It's a judgment-free zone. It's an area in which you can come to, I know for me on Instagram is a place I love to hang out. My DMs are always open. Like I'm more than happy to offer some support and encouragement and guidance. So, it's just reaching out to people and you were so right. Sometimes the people closest to us, we don't want to confide in them. We don't want to let them know how we're really feeling. And so sometimes having somebody like you or I to come to, it helps, because it's that unbiased person that's going to help you, hold your hand, give you that support that you need. But, we're not in your world. So it can help you be that little bit more vulnerable and share and let off your heart and chest what it is that you're feeling, and have somebody who can really help support you, because you or I have been where they're at. We know how they feel, we can relate to them, but we're equipped with the skills to help them as well.
Yeah, and just like I said at the beginning of the episode, there's so many more out there now. And find someone that you resonate with that has a message that hits your heart, and send them a message, because that's why they're there. We all want you to reach out and get support 100%.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And what is the book that you want to recommend for our listeners?
So I think, given your audience in particular, a book that I would recommend would be Flourish for Mums. Now, I'm in Australia, so mums is spelled M-U-M, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it. And it's by Sonia, and I'm sure I'm not going to pronounce her last name correctly. I'm terrible pronouncing some people's names, but I think it's Bestulic, Bestulic, I think is how it's spelled. But I'm sure you'll pop it in the show notes so people will be able to find that. But that's a really beautiful book that really speaks to mums on our level. And there's so much, encouragement inside that book as well. And she gives a lot of tools and tips along the way. So that's definitely a book I even gift it to my clients as well, because I know how helpful it can be.
Yeah. And the thing I love about Google is you could just type something in with the information that you have, and usually it'll pick it up. I'll tell you, I was looking for this book when I had gone into therapy in my 20s, and the therapist that I went to was recommended this book called I Have to Be Perfect. And it's written specifically for pastors' kids and missionary kids, because I'm a pastor's daughter. And it's about feeling like you have to be perfect, or your parents will get in trouble with their job. And that book had come up in my mind, but I could not for the life of me remember the title of it. When I found it, I was like, how could I forget the title? But I literally Googled books for pastors' kids, and it took 3 or 4 tries, but it finally came up, and I was like, yes, that's the one. And I had been talking about it for weeks, and it finally showed up. But like, that's the beautiful thing about the internet and Google, and like, you can find what you're looking for, and find things that you're not looking for with a quick Google search.
Yeah, you do have to be careful with the old Google searches.
You do. So tell our listeners how they can find you.
Yeah, so my favorite place to hang out is over on Instagram. So you'll find me at Renae.O'Neill. And yeah, of course, I've got my website as well, which is just renaeo'neill.com. So you can find out more about me and what it is that I do and ways in which I help mums as well. Yeah.
Perfect. And I noticed that you tagged me and saying that you're going to be on my podcast. And I was like, that's so cool. I've never had anybody do that before. So I'm not on Insta. I'm not even really on social media very much anymore. Like I was on a mom group last night, and I was looking at this post that instigated a lot of anger and infighting, and I was like, how is this mom related even? Like, how is the original post, because it's a mom group, how is this original post even related to moms? So I shy away from participating in that kind of stuff, but I'm getting into, more of Facebook and Instagram. I always loved Facebook until recently, but Instagram, and it's the funniest thing because I like to scroll through the pictures. That's the only thing I like to do on Facebook. So why don't I like to do it on Instagram? I have no idea.
I think we all have our preferences, because even though I'm on social media and I hang out more, because I'm on Facebook too, but I prefer Instagram.
Mm.
Even though I like social media, there's obviously another side to it, but this is why I love podcasting as well. And like, I've got my own podcast too, which is Embracing Life. And I love podcasting because, it's just such a different vibe than social media. You get to, like with our podcast that we're doing right now, the listener gets to sit there and listen and feel like they're a part of a conversation with us, which is something that I really love. So yeah, I think it just depends on what you're into. Like, I would prefer to listen to a podcast than I would to scroll on social media for half an hour.
Very true. I have so many podcasts that I subscribe to that I don't always get around to listening to them all, but I do love the conversation style. I think my son wants to show everybody something. So he's been homesick for 2 days. And
it's been 3.
Well, you were sick on Sunday. But he started building this Lego thing. You're going to have to show it. I know you just dropped something, but I want to keep everybody's time. So here is his Thanos glove that he built all by himself. And he wants
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. So if you're just listening to the podcast, you'll have to jump on YouTube to see the Thanos glove made out of Legos. It's pretty darn cool.
Yeah,
now he's got to go fix it because it's off.
My son would love that.
Yeah. We got it at Legoland when we went for his birthday in February. He fixed it. I think it says something. Is that like
It's disappearing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool. You did a good job.
There. Huh? That's the problem with virtual backgrounds. Anyway, well, thank you so much for joining me today and pouring into our guests and into me, because these are my favorite kinds of conversations, and this is like the only place I get to have them. So.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I'm honored to be here, and I've absolutely loved chatting to you.
Awesome. Well, so we'll have another episode of Imperfect Mommy next week, and until then, keep healing.
Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AliciaLyons.com. That's ALYSIALYONS.com. See you next time.